Ay, 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 ay.
Hello guys, I Should Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco, and you guys gotta actually give me some time, some break time, because I just released a video some hours ago, like, I don't even know, but some hours ago, and suddenly God of War actually released FSR 2.0, and you guys are asking me to actually review the FSR 2.0 on God of War, and I mean, editing and testing the videos takes a lot of time. I mean, you guys really need to give me a rest. Anyway, although I'm tired, I'm really happy to bring you this video today of the FSR 2.0 in God of War. FSR 1.0 uses spatial upscaling, so it works one frame at a time to upscale the image, while FSR 2.0 uses temporal upscaling using several vectors like, for example, motion, color and depth to have better image fidelity. But well, like I said before, things are looking pretty good in terms of supported games with FSR 2.0 because this is the third game in just a matter of weeks. But are things also looking good in terms of image fidelity? Let's find out. Right after the sponsor of today's video! Today's video sponsor is GVG Mall, where using my SKG discount code leads to a 25% off across several products, making a Windows 10 serial key only $16. After the payment, you'll receive the key in your account and all you need to do is to introduce it in your Windows settings and bam! You have an activated system. The first example we have is close to the mountain, where we have several good ways of collecting data with trees, grass and lots of lines. YouTube compression always makes things worse in terms of image fidelity, so it gets a bit harder to compare, but in real gameplay the native did look better, but not by much. Even while zooming, you are looking at details that you would never notice in a normal gameplay. We can see the difference is minimal, with FSR 2.0 actually having more defined tree branches. The grass looks virtually the same with just a slight decrease in sharpness that can be adjusted, but even at 0.5 the difference without zooming isn't really noticeable even for a trained eye. The markings on the axe though look a bit blurred compared to native, and the holes in the bottom kind of faded away with FSR 2.0, which means loss of data. On the other hand, Kratos' swords look a bit better with FSR 2.0, while the letters on Mimir's head actually are a bit blurred as well, so it's a trade, I guess. Going to a darker environment, things start getting a bit interesting. In this particular area, I could not notice any major differences in terms of sharpening and image fidelity, although native did look a bit better, of course. But this led me to kind of discover one of FSR 2.0 issues with God of War, which is the creation of reflections. Zooming into the floor, we can see that FSR 2.0 adds an excessive amount of reflection that just wasn't there with native settings. This alongside with some rugosity as well. I sincerely don't know what's going on here, but seems like the upscaling algorithm may be focusing too much on the reconstruction of some aspects, leading to this excess of reflections. Now fully indoors to test the linings in darker scenarios, we have the opposite case of the forest test and also the opposite case of the first FSR 2.0 game, Deathloop. In here, even without zooming, the difference in terms of contour can be noticed. And as soon as you zoom in, you can definitely see the amount of data that FSR 2.0 lost here, with the stars on the left and the dragon on the right getting smaller and less pronounced. And the wheel in the middle getting way less defined, this alongside an overall change in the golden tones, which shouldn't be happening. Here the golden arc lines are also a bit blurred compared to the native resolution, of course, but the crystal is actually a bit more pronounced, looking better or worse depending on your perspective, of course. The reflections though are still messed up, as you can see by looking at the wall, with plain surfaces somehow looking rough and with an excessive amount of reflection. Focusing a bit more on image fidelity in between native FSR 2.0 quality and FSR 2.0 balanced, I could notice another issue with FSR 2.0 in God of War, which is the depth of field. If you look closely, you can see that with the native resolution the background is quite blurred, while the quality mode gets us a more defined background, and the same happens again when going to the balanced mode. That leads me to believe that the lower the render resolution is, the wider the depth of field gets, and this is not normal and shouldn't be happening at all. But this is something that will probably get fixed in the next update, so yeah. Just before moving on, I'll leave you a better comparison here. So guys, as you saw, things are looking pretty good in terms of image fidelity, but what about the performance? Let's go into the performance a bit. In terms of performance testing, we have the RX 6800 here running 1440p, which is set to be the new standard, FSR 2.0 quality and FSR 2.0 balanced. The scenario in Nvme is actually interesting since we have a bit of performance boost going from native to FSR quality, with just a little impact in image fidelity of course, while going to balanced mode gets us a noticeable drop in image fidelity while only bringing 2 FPS more than the quality mode. You may not be able to notice the lower quality presented by the balanced mode here, but since I tested quite a bit, I can assure you that it is easily noticeable, unlike when using quality mode for example. As for the 6600 XT, the results are a bit different. Running at 1440p high settings, we have 66 FPS in this particular scenario, while using FSR quality actually raises the values to 84 FPS, which is a major difference in terms of gameplay smoothness for people with panels over 65 Hz. And unlike the previous scenario, we can get some performance boost from balanced mode, in this case from 84 to 90 FPS. Although the quality preset delivers way better image fidelity and almost the same FPS, so I would keep that one. Now with the mighty RX 580 at 1080p original settings, things are looking quite okay. At 1080p, since we have way less pixels to upscale from, in this case even the quality option is upscaled from 720p, the final image fidelity is quite lower than when using FSR at 1440p or 4K. Still, it doesn't look that bad in the quality mode, and we can always adjust the sharpness slider a bit more, and we go from 54 to 62 FPS, which may make a difference for some people. Overall, native does look quite better, of course, but the quality mode is a good mid-ground, I suppose. So if you want the best performance you can get without losing much image fidelity, FSR 2.0 quality is what you want. So guys, here we are in the conclusion, and my conclusion is that if you use FSR with a resolution like 1440p and 4K or 1440p or a little bit above 1440p, the image fidelity will be very good. If you're just playing casually, you won't even notice much of a difference if you're using the sharpness like I did to 0.5. It will look very good at 1440p with FSR 2.0 quality. Now, if you're upscaling with a 1080p monitor, like we saw for example on the RX 580 test, I tested a bit as well, and you can definitely notice the difference. Even going from 1080p native to FSR 2.0 quality, we can notice the difference in terms of image quality. But I mean, it is quite normal, since we are kind of upscaling from 720p, and the lower the amount of pixels you are upscaling from is, the harder it will be to reconstruct the image, because the algorithm actually has less info to upscale from, less info to reconstruct the image. So if you have way more pixels, 1080p to reconstruct from 1080p or over that, well, the image fidelity will be much better. But if you are actually using 720p, going from 720p upscaling to 1080p, well, the pixels are not much, the image data is not much, so the algorithm won't work as well. But it looks pretty decent with the quality settings, even with 1080p FSR. As for the balanced settings, well, those look pretty bad. those look pretty bad. Even with sharpening, if you push the sharpening up, it will look over sharpened, but with the quality settings at 0.5 or 0.5 or 0.4 sharpening, sorry, it will look very decent even at 1080p. As for the other resolutions, they look very well with FSR. As for motion and motion ghosting, well, I didn't notice anything that catched my eye in particular, but in God of War it still needs to get some things fixed. Mostly those insane over-the-top reflections that FSR causes somehow, those rough textures with reflections. It just doesn't look good, okay? And it needs to be fixed. And well, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video because that really helps a lot. And see you in the next one.